I think this quick clip is necessary to go over some of the points of breathing again. Not necessarily the wide-ranging impact and benefits of breathing, but more focusing on the posture, the physiological and the anatomical techniques to breathing to maximize effect. So we can look at the physiological posture in terms of how you want to position the body, paying close, specific attention to the spine, the alignment of the spine, and the upright position you want to take, especially with the upper body, and also the method, the technique through the inhalation and exhalation, because otherwise it's like anything, any exercise, once you perfect the technique, you will get a greater or maximum benefit. So like if you just breathe freely and unconsciously, like we can more or less pant like a dog, but we've trained conscious and appropriate technique, we really will tap or tune in to the benefits of what breathing and breathing exercise is all about. Alright, so the first point to consider is the posture. And the posture that we take for optimum effect is all based around the spine and the natural spinal alignment. Again, the spine is the channel that the life force travels through. It unites the heaven and the earth. So we've got the higher body with the lower body, metaphorically speaking, but also physiologically speaking, it's actual. So what we're doing is it's a constant push and pull of opposing energies to kind of raise energy and also distribute energy throughout the body. Now this is best achieved when the channels are clear. So it's like the whole hose pipe example. If you've got a hose pipe and you're watering the garden, water is flowing through the hose. If you put a bend or a crevice or an angle into the hose pipe, what you're doing is you're restricting the flow, and the vessel, the hose pipe, if you imagine that to be a blood vessel or a windpipe or a colon pipe, that is actually becoming constricted in that area, and it's that area then that will what happens first is the pressure increases. So if you put a bend, you find it comes out, because this is basically what high blood pressure is. It's when you get constrictions or reductions in the dilation of the vessel or the channel. Now that same amount of energy going through there is constricted, which increases pressure, but also it slows down as much, because these are opposing energies. So as much as the pressure is increasing, it's slowing down the progression of the function, what the whole thing is about. So you want to keep these pipes and channels as straight and open as possible. So to do that, if you're breathing, and breathing is something you can do sitting down, lying down, or standing. But if you're sitting, you want to pay attention first to the base and the sacral region, the tailbone of the spine, because the spine actually, it doesn't finish at the bottom of your back. The bottom of your back extends right down underneath. So, and it's that tailbone. And basically from that tailbone, the spine is not straight. So we do not want to sit straight. If we sit straight, or what we call straight, then we don't actually follow the right alignment path of the spine. What we want to do is cement and root your tailbone to the earth. And to do that often, you have to kind of adjust the muscle tissue around your butt. You have to kind of, adjust it so that you've got a plain surface, a flat surface, so that your tailbone can be as connected, which is your sacral region, energetically, to the earth or the surface that you're sitting on. From there, what you want to tend to do then is get into the habit, whether you're standing or sitting, to kind of tuck your tailbone in and under. So again, you're getting that tailbone, the pelvis, you want to tuck the pelvis under and in. So you're getting that tailbone just closer to the surface, to the earth, basically. So that puts your spine, the bottom of your spine, at this kind of curvature, but then your spine also curves inwards, yeah, as it's coming up. So with that being said, it will naturally start to curve inwards, yeah. So what you want to do now is start to lengthen the spine as you come up through the spine, and you can do that voluntarily, just putting thought into it. You can kind of lift and lengthen your spine, open up the space between each vertebra. You've got neurological endings going to each spine, so we can voluntarily do this. It feels a bit uncomfortable and you feel a bit of shifting in the abdominals, but this is a natural posture, and it will be uncomfortable if your body's been trained to slump and all your organs have got their usual resting places. You know, we want to challenge the body now to kind of fall back into a more natural alignment. So you lift, pelvis tucked, the spine is lengthened as much as possible. You want your chest to kind of be upright and out, and at the same time you're kind of pushing your rib cage back, so you're really achieving that curvature. So you've got opposing energies, opposing forces as well. Your rib cage is out, your chest is out, sorry, your rib cage is back. Your shoulders, they want to be back and hanging low, but relaxed. Because as soon as you try to position yourself, you know, it's tense, you have to put yourself into position. So again, any tension, this is why yoga is very helpful, any tension in the cellular tissue, in your blood vessels, basically what you're doing is you're constricting flow, energy flow, and this is exactly where the idea of disease comes from. It's a lack of ability for energy to flow through the subtle body pathways and then through the physical pathways. So always try and remember, okay, you're in position, relax the shoulders. Yeah, you want to take out any creases in the neck, and then once you're in position, what you want to try and do to bring more lengthening to the spine is just to imagine the crown of your head penetrating and lifting towards the ceiling, and the tailbone, the roots of the abdominal region, pulling down into the earth, so that opposing energy force once again. And what you're doing is you are lengthening the spine. So pelvis tucked, rib cage back, chest out, crown penetrating the ceiling, shoulders back, relaxed, no creases in the neck, and that's the posture you want to achieve. Same if you're standing. Yeah, so if you're standing now, let's just adjust this a little bit. If you're standing, it's quite natural to kind of have your body in a situation where, you know, your stomach kind of hangs forward more so than it should. So what you want to do when you're standing, as long as your feet are rooted, as we go over, like when we're doing a Tekken sequence, yeah, that kind of pillar sensation you want to achieve throughout your body. You want to, again, tuck your pelvis, rib cage back. So what you're actually doing is you're pushing the front of your abdominal region, you're pulling it in towards the back, towards the spine, yeah, and then your chest is up and high, you're proud, but then your shoulders are beside you, towards the back and relaxed. So now you're achieving a curvature in the spine, and then your neck, you adjust your neck to remove any kind of crevice or creases. Now you've got open channels, and these channels feed into your colon channels, feed into what we call the nadis, which is it's like a subtle energy transport system. Also, we can say it runs along the same transport system as your nerves, and they say there's like 70,000 of these little individual conduits, these little channels that feed all of the body organs and systems. Yeah, and it's through that posture, that opening, when you are breathing in, so the air is coming in and it's going down, filling to the stomach first, but also at the same time you have this internal opposing energy. So as you're breathing in, there's an energy force lowering, but what goes up must come down. There's also an energy force running up the back of the spine, which is coming up, which is rising from that sacral region. So you've got two energies opposing each other, but working in union, as the paradox would have it. So that's the posture. And if you're lying flat, it's easier to achieve. You want to just relax, and depending on the technique you're applying, that'll determine the kind of compromises to your posture, whether you're in a starch position or your feet are together. All these things do actually affect they affect the effect of the breathing, and what can be achieved in terms of relaxation, in terms of cleansing, which we'll look at when we go in a bit deeper with the breathing techniques. Yeah, okay, so now the method of breathing, when we talk about the method, more appropriately, the way in which organs we're going to use to inhale and exhale. Now, traditionally, physiologically, the most beneficial way to breathe in terms of the cleanest and most effective way to stimulate all the faculties is always in through the nose. In through the nose, and once we pay attention to the system and the layout of the body, it makes perfect sense. We've got dual canals here, which kind of cross paths and directly are channeled towards the two hemispheres of the brain. Again, the brain cells require twice as much oxygen as any other cell of the body to function at an optimal level. So we're directly feeding the brain, and from the brain, the command center, the central control center of the body, or the headquarters, that will then instruct what is going on underneath it, which is the rest of your body. So we feed these areas first. The breath comes in through the nose, and what is also important about breathing in through the nose is the filtering faculties, because the body is always protecting itself. So in through the nose means it passes a filtering system. This is why we have so much mucus present in the nose, especially when we get sick, because it's that mucus that is the web that catches. It lets in and out, and the mucus forms as a result of what it's actually caught in the filtering system. So when this air comes through, any of these finite particles that we can't see and detect in the air naturally, metals, micro metals, these dust particles, these kind of chemical toxins that are in the air, we've got very fine mechanisms to filter those out and stop them reaching or breaking through the blood-brain barrier, and also breaking into the body's immune system and defense system, or breaking through it. That doesn't exist in the mouth in the same way it does in the nose. Breathing is something we should be consciously, constantly engaged in. So it's very important that we use those filtering mechanisms to preserve the health of the body. Also, another key function of the body is temperature regulation. The temperature regulation is governed by the hypothalamus brain gland within the brain. So that's very important, because the body's core temperature, it varies, but generally the body's main temperature is about 37 degrees. Now, temperature is everything. Heat is energy. So when we start to understand what these actually mean on deeper levels, the body is set through pH balance, through temperature balance, through acid alkaline. Everything is alchemical. But when we're dealing with temperature, the body is set at a certain temperature because every other function it is engaged in, which is billions at any one given time, is dependent on this temperature flux. So every single department that needs catering to has a certain temperature at which optimal results are achieved. When anything changes the temperature of the body, you see how quickly the body scatters to get balance of temperature. If you're cold, then you start to, or your vaso, they constrict or dilate, depending. You'll get your goosebumps and hairs, and you'll shiver into warm. All these things are in place for preservation and protection. If you get too hot, then you see the opposite occur, and the body will start to perspire to release heat. Temperature is very important, and when we're dealing with something such as the breath, temperature of the air that is coming in will constantly have the body engaged in a flux. So there's a temperature regulation mechanism in the nasal faculty, which is not present in the mouth orifice. So that's why breathing through the nose is very important physiologically for the immune system and the balance of the body, amongst a lot of other reasons, but it gets more into the subtle effects of the breath. However, what we find is when we speed up our activity, when the body's engaged in higher metabolic functions, we have an instinctive nature to breathe out through the mouth. That's because when your body's engaged in metabolic functions, higher metabolic function rates, it's turning over energy quicker. That means it's burning things inside quicker. That means there's more ash, more toxin, more pollutant, more waste being produced. So the quickest way to get waste out is through the mouth, because all the blood is circulating through the lungs, isn't it? So then we want a quick outlet because we don't want the toxin to reside too long in the body. So for certain cleansing purposes, we will breathe out or exhale through the mouth, but it's always proper and most effective to breathe in through the nose. There's going to be certain times when you're engaged in certain things where your body's going to require vast amounts of air. So maybe then we will engage the mouth. Yeah, but we want to be conscious of that and have that under our control, rather than just subconsciously letting it happen. Because if we're not conscious of our health and conscious on what we're engaged in, we are open and vulnerable. And that's where it comes back to the breath being so symbolic as to where we're at within ourselves. Because if our mouth is just open and we're fly catching our way through life, passenger in the passenger seat all the time, so many things are getting in. Yeah, they're getting in, and then they're having their way, and then we become victims of it, in so many different ways. This isn't just dust and parasites, because they also have their metaphysical or metaphorical correspondences as to what's really going on in your life and your reality. But it's about us being in control and guarding the gates. And that's why breathing in, that's why even when we breathe out through the nose, it's very symbolic, because it takes a lot more conscious control to breathe out through the nose. Everything's about you being in control and you being centered. Yeah? So when we are breathing in these positions through the right mechanisms and in the right posture, things are getting fed a lot more naturally and a lot more effectively. Yeah? And so the implications and the knock-on effects are great and vast. Overall, your energy, your vibration, your awareness, your consciousness, your memory, your focus, your health is constantly increasing because you are becoming more conscious of yourself and more conscious of your health. The extent of these benefits are infinite, and that's something we realize with a lot more practice and consistency, because then we can start to tap into other areas of ourself that we was, previously a bit more, unconscious of or disconnected from. Yeah. So breathing, it unites, it connects, it awakens, it activates, it heals, it restores, it balances. But the way we breathe will determine the level of effect each breath has. You can be doing one exercise for 2 years, for 10 years. If you're not doing it correctly, what you're actually doing is damaging and putting yourself further out of balance and more at a disproportionate state. If you get the technique right, you are wholesomely improving and strengthening not only the area you're trying to build, but the alignment of the whole body and how it all falls into place naturally. So I just think that's important to remember in terms of posture and the method of breathing techniques. We will keep having clips going over various breathing techniques for various effects that we're trying to achieve. So we'll stay tuned. Much love.